When it comes to planning a retreat, there's ways to get it to go from average to incredibly transformative. Welcome to Retreat Boss, where we speak about inspired travel for fun, transformation, and profit. Guest experts will give you their tips and tricks on creating the most impactful retreats, both for you and your clients. Whether you want a meditative getaway, a wellness trip, or a business escapade, we provide you with the best advice in organizing and hosting a tremendous event. Join Catherine Kontos as she talks with fellow experts about creating exclusive and successful retreats. Dive deep into the most unique activities, the best destinations to visit, and the most uplifting trips out there that you can discover. Here is your host, Catherine Kontos.
Today on Retreat Boss, the podcast, we have Mark Demos, founder of the Legacy Forum, where he helps people who are serious about their lives, families, and legacy. He is an executive coach, psychotherapist, minister, speaker, and the author of the DNA Code, The Forensics of Purpose, Passion, and Performance. When we first met Mark, I was so eager to get you on the show because of everything that you do, your values, and how you have used your talents to transform others from, ground zero up. And it just pulled me to you to get to know you more and really show you off to the world, because there should be more people like you. So welcome to the show, Mark.
I so appreciate it. And I do. I remember that conversation well, and remember how much we shared in terms of values and really in terms of even just pathways in life, in terms of how we wanted to help people. And so, it's two minds and two lives that are dedicated to making lives bigger and better and more meaningful. So greatly appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
So you founded the Legacy Forum. Tell me a little bit about how that came up, what made you found the Legacy Forum, and what's its purpose and mission?
Cool. I went to Seattle in 1991, and it was during that time that I started doing executive coaching at a much younger Microsoft. I was working with venture capital companies, working with early stage startups as well. And a lot of my work tended to move towards not just actual executive coaching, but to dealing with the lives of these executives on a much broader scale. A lot of these executives who were at Microsoft had children that were my children's ages, and they kind of tracked with each other in school. And when they got to high school, they inevitably, with many families, became issues with their teenagers and then young adults. And it was during that time that I had bought a house just down the road from Microsoft, or I had a house just down the road from Microsoft. And it's on a lake that stretches through, from one side of Redmond to the other, which is where Microsoft is. And what I would do is I would have these executives come down to my house. Instead of going up to Microsoft, sitting in an office, or even sitting in another office I had, they would come down and we would walk out into the dock. We would spend hours down there very often, sometimes on the deck if it's raining, but we would start spending, or I start spending, not just that hour, not just an hour on the phone, but taking hours and sometimes a day at a time to work with in-depth issues related to relationships, related to family, related to integrating their own work and their own careers into the big picture, and really start to think about legacy as more than just how much money am I going to make. And a lot of these people were making a lot of money being early at Microsoft, and then being there 5, 10, 15 years and longer, and being able to give their families everything in terms of money. But these families were shattering and breaking apart and coming apart at the seams, and kids getting on drugs, and the adults abusing substances, and relationships just shattering it. So it was during that time that I started to sort of work, with extended periods. But I also was invited by a friend of mine who had started an accounting firm, a financial planning firm, right when Microsoft had started. And he invited me out with one of the early founders of Microsoft to the San Juan Islands, which is just a magnificent, place. It's in the Puget Sound, goes up towards Canada. And we went to a private island, and he asked me just to come and really more observe. And he worked on financial issues, and he worked on, values statements with his family. And I really got to see how valuable spending extended periods of time with these families and with these people. And I think we spent about 4 days there, but I think, if you were to do that in the office, it would take a year, what they did in those 4 days. And so it was a combination of those factors that really, I wanted to start the Legacy Forum. I did start the Legacy Forum. And it was to get people to get to a place and in a venue where they could really look forward in life and say, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to go. And so that's a long answer.
Yeah, amazing. So you realized at that point that an intensive immersion of a program that you can offer them would likely be life changing for them. And I think is that where you started thinking about like I need to do retreats for these people?
I did, and we started to work with some very wealthy, families, high net worth, ultra high net worth. And a lot of them had venues that we could go to that took them away from what they did in everyday life. And so that was important with all the distractions people have just in general, being able to retreat and to be able to go away. It's not retreat, in terms of, I'm losing at life. It was sometimes they were, but very often it was bringing them away from life to a place where they could focus. They could talk in ease, they could talk at length, and they could talk with someone who really was invested in their future and had expertise. And, I'd helped a lot of people through the years, and they trusted me to be able to help them talk through and work through these issues. So it really was getting away from the noise, getting to a place where, the most important things of life could get talked about.
And do you find this impacted them long term, or would they go back after the retreat and go back to their old habits?
Most I think would change, because I think what the retreat did, it was foundational in setting long-term goals. It was foundational in building a far deeper relationship with them. One of the things that retreats do, it allows you to be up close and personal with people. And in many of these retreats, they were at homes and other homes that these families had. And it was not simply going to a hotel. There were times that they would rent a place down in the Florida Keys or in, Nantucket or places like that. But, being able to, again, just get with people, spend time with people, they get to see you and trust you as well. It creates a very different relationship rather than seeing people in the everyday clothes and the everyday situation. And so that trust element is deeply impacted.
So the difference, is that instead of seeing them an hour, like a session is usually an hour, let's say, right? Every couple of weeks, once a month, whatever it is, compared to all day, all night, seeing them in very different behaviors from the morning to night for a weekend. And you're there for any emotion that they're feeling, any thoughts they're having, makes a huge difference, and it impacts their lives in a very profound way. And what do you feel like after all these retreats that you've done? How do you feel your relationship and your coaching relationship towards them? How has it made a difference in your business and in your relationship with them?
I think, again, it's not, it's a decent analogy. The relationship essentially goes on steroids because it advances it. Not steroids in the sense that you're hyper and you're going a bit crazy, but it really advances it to a great extent and advances it a long way down the road. You're able to talk about things where very often a client is thinking about my hour's about to end or the session's about to end. This opens everything up. And I think beyond that, once you establish that relationship and they start doing what you've talked about in an away setting, and then you work with them afterwards when they get back into real life, where everything has to be played out that you've talked about. That support ongoing is what ultimately makes a success. It's like going to summer camp. Very often you can fall in love and everything's grand and everything's wonderful. The emotions are good. But, reality is what happens when you leave and you go back home and you go back to work and you go back to whatever influences you have back at home. And so the support that is ongoing, and just the accountability and the ongoing conversation, it has a real context. And so, I see a deeply impacting relationship, deeply impacting long-term work, and ultimately making for a successful relationship.
Absolutely. And how many people are at your retreat? Is it like a lot of different people? Is it very close knit? How do you offer your retreats?
I think it really does it's different every one of them. I've done individual retreats where I've been just with the one person executive, and we will go and we'll sit, we'll go up the mountains, go to the ocean, go wherever on a boat sometimes, and we'll spend a few days. Sometimes those are for very personal issues. There's a crisis in a relationship and they really need to get away and just be able to talk by themselves. Sometimes it's a couple. Sometimes it's an entire family, which is what we've done quite a lot of, and couples. My wife works with me. She's been a therapist for 25 years. Then sometimes we've done it, with companies as well, with executive teams. I did a lot of that in Seattle with a lot of the startups, and the venture capital companies would want me to help, with the team building with these new teams that were, trying to really learn how to function together and be able to do things in a far more formalized way, but yet in an informal way as well. We were profiling and we were learning what people did, where they could do it better, and in what circumstances. We profiled their strengths and we profiled their interactions. And when you take that and you, again, use that to build the teams in real life, again, that works. But you're seeing them in relaxed situations. You can get a lot of good information from their interaction and also from them personally. Not sure if that answered the question.
Well, that's the thing. Because some people think of retreats as they think mostly yoga and meditation, but retreats vary. It could be, like you said, a one-on-one with somebody for a few days, or it could be a large group in a corporate setting. It really depends on what the goal is at the end of it all with your client. And you've done that. You take what they're going through, and exactly what they need, and that's great. Now, the other thing I know about you really well is your transformation is incredible, because you do focus on finding their purpose, their legacy. What are they leaving behind, right? What will people remember them by? And I find a lot of people, that's one thing that they struggle with, is what's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? And they struggle with it so much so that they're almost paralyzed by the question. So what I'd like to know, because in any type of retreat or any type of counseling therapy, this is key to igniting life back into these people and getting them excited and back on their feet. What is it? What technique, or what is it that you do that makes them find that purpose or discover it with you?
I think that's what's been central to my work throughout my entire life, is helping people understand why they're here. And there are a number of different ways to approach it. We approach younger people from the extent, or to the extent that we're trying to help them profile talent. What do I do well? What can I use in terms of my own talent to give to other people to impact and make their lives different? And for younger people, and we have worked with a lot of people in retreat settings, is helping them understand what that is. What we find in wealthier families very often is that it's a bigger issue than in families that have much less, or families that even struggle. because they have a sense that they don't have to discover what they have and what they haven't. The important part is what they have to give to other people and make their lives bigger, better, and different. And so when you don't know what your talents are, and not just talent, it's talents. It's a it's a broad profiling of who they are, and you get them to own it, distinct from their families, from their fathers, very often from their mothers, from their the family name. They have got to self-identify because I have a basic formula which says design determines purpose. That is, when I know what my unique capacities are and I get to discover them, I get to own them, I get to be grateful for them. And then when I get to see how I can impact other lives with, I do feel a sense of purpose. So it's understanding that design that determines purpose, but purpose is really found is when I give those talents to other people, it creates passion, it creates positive emotion in my life. And then it's really the same application with everybody. You look at a family and you look at a family that's struggling. It's helping them go back to remember what built this family in the first place. What were the unique strengths and capacities? What were the things that attracted us to each other? What are the things we have to give to each other? I'm really a firm believer in not always going backwards to try and understand how to build a better future. I think when you understand what you have today to give to the lives of other people, and I make a deliberate choice to do that, I feel a sense of purpose. I do have purpose in that person's life. That's not to tear down, that's not to break down, that's not to criticize. It's there to see that person with all the stuff of life, but to see the very best in them and to encourage that best to be given to other people. And I think that's crucial. It doesn't matter how much money you have. If you're not giving of your talent, not giving money, giving you to the lives of other people, one-on-one, close up, you will lack a sense of purpose. It doesn't matter what title you hold. It doesn't matter if you got $1 billion in the bank. It doesn't matter. You've got to be up close and personal, knowing what you have to give and being able to touch the lives of others with what you uniquely have the capacity to do. So, it really does vary, but very often in talking about purpose as well, people get to the 50s and 60s and start looking back and wondering, what have I done with my life? Have I simply been part of a process that's rewarded me very well? What even are these rewards worth when I look at the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of my life and, what now? And then I think so often people want to make up for that lack or that lack of engagement in real life. And so for people who are older, who have the means, it's really trying to help them know that life can really matter. It doesn't matter what part of life you're at. When are you going to stop? When are you going to think deeply and honestly and in gratitude about how do we move forward, as an individual or as a family, to be able to do things as a family together, but that really matter, that are using the talents and the unique capacities of that family to go and touch the lives of other people. So I think ultimately that's where it resides. And so,
Yeah. It is. They have to, people have to strip themselves of all the judgments and all the programming they've had all their lives to figure out who they really are after so many years of doing for others or being for others or image and all of that. And I don't think there's anything more productive, if I can, lack of a better word, than being in an intensive moment and just searching and looking and finding and doing whatever you need to do, like actionable behaviors where you can actually find that purpose. How long are your retreats usually? Does it take just a few days or is it like weeks?
we've gone up to a week and then we've rescheduled, continue those sometimes just by spending a lot of time in the home and then, reconvening.
Right.
We did one with the family in Vermont and then Nantucket and then San Francisco, all the same family, along with, with the same purpose.
Right.
essentially discovery and essentially how do we make our lives matter. And some have been repeats over the years where it becomes a thing once a year where you sit down and you evaluate and you look at where you've been, what you've done, and it really is saying, how do I be more? I don't want to just idle at this stage in life, at this point in life. How do I make it, even better? How do I really get a sense of why I matter in this world as the runway gets shorter in a sense? And I think it is important that people keep that in perspective because we don't know when it ends. It could end any day. What about today? What's happening today that I know that I've given thought to that gives my life meaning and purpose, and hopefully I can repeat tomorrow.
I love that you do that with your clients, that that there's some that come back to you every year and you do like a realignment, like, okay, where are we at now? Where are we going? Because life does change. Your goals do change, and sometimes our purpose even changes, right? So that's amazing, and more people should do that. Like they have to be conscious that we're dynamic, we're always evolving. Yeah, very good, Mark.
Thank you. No, goodness. But
Thumbs up for ya.
I think about your life and the wonderful opportunity and the use of who you are to create these opportunities for people and for this work to happen. What a great purpose to facilitate this happening, and it just what a wonderful place to be in your life as well. You create the opportunity. You create the environment and take away all the planning issues and everything else, so people can focus on the most important issues that are taking their lives to that point.
Definitely. What would be the advice you would give to another transformational coach struggling to, catapult their clients to that point of like the aha moment of I know who I am, I know what I want. What would you tell them?
Act on it. I think a lot of people are just scared to step out and act. You can go through, and I see a lot of coaches just keep talking, keep talking, keep talking, and they talk about the action points. But it really is being able to get people sometimes going with them to enact the things that they've talked about. People lack courage sometimes. People still don't believe that they have the capacity to do certain things. Sometimes it's applying for a different position, changing careers. They feel scared to move from where they are. And sometimes it really is, I believe in almost more active coaching and really pushing people when they have all the information and they know what direction they should go in. There are times to be silent, and there are times to say, look, you're wasting your life. It's time to move on. It's time to leave that if you ever want to find what you deeply and desperately are looking for. And so I think it really is, coaching is in terms of style and in terms of, who coaches on, how they read people is always very different. There are different philosophies to coaching. I think it's to know as a coach, where you have created the most impact. And I think trying to model something that you're not and trying to, model a certain type of coaching that maybe doesn't fit who you are. I think you need to coach yourself, let go of those things.
Right.
And just see, where have I created the most impact, most movement? And when I look back at my clients and see what is it that I said and did for them that had the greatest impact, I think there usually are patterns to that. There are types of clients, there are, ways of approaching that have really got people to move and engage and come back and say, I'm so grateful. Thank you for what you've done. And I'm not sure if that answers the question.
It does. It does. It does answer the question because you're giving guidance to other coaches that are maybe struggling a little bit. Maybe they know a lot of it, but sometimes there's a little message that's in, your words that really will impact them and make them understand. And I really believe that the connection is the most important thing with your clients, connecting deeply with them so they can trust you fully. And they really listen after they listen, and it makes a difference. That type of listening, it's not just I'm hearing you,
Mhm.
I'm listening to you. And they just, anything you say at that point, they'll act on it, hopefully, right? That's the whole point about being a coach. It's always great to have that client that's like, wow, you're doing everything I'm telling you, and you just see them go from 0 to 500, like in a blink of an eye, and that's amazing.
And I think it's also important, we work with a lot of people with addictions, and we can work with them closely and we can get them in a retreat setting. We do rehabs within the context of the home. A lot of our clients have been to many rehabs. So we do detox and rehabs in the home. We don't send them away. And it's all medically controlled with a psychiatrist and some detox with a nurse who does it. But when you can get people away after that, when they're thinking clearly, and you can begin to really connect with them in that sort of environment, and away environment, for a short period of time at least, it really does build that trust, and it you get again to see them and allow them to tell their stories, where they're not simply sitting in a group telling their stories. I mean, you can have a small group there, or you can even have close friends who are there to support them and say, when we leave this place, we're going to be there to encourage you, support you, and we're going to hold you accountable to certain goals. And we're going to be there not to watch so much, but we're going to be there to really encourage you in the everyday flow of life. And that, I think, has been very effective through the years too.
Yeah, it sounds like a big hug, like, and we got you,
It
right?
does. And it gives confidence to people. It really, but again, that confidence has to be supported once you leave.
Yes,
uh,
absolutely.
Almost immediately. Sometimes people have got to really think through what they've done in the retreat, and they can journal, and you just find out how people best express themselves and what support they need. But we're planning an intervention at the moment, but that intervention is going to be coupled with the entire family going away,
Mm,
trying to determine what sort of support do we think we're going to need. How life works, and even how retreats work sometimes, unless they're really structured, you have no idea. But you know, when you have retreats, know what the purpose of the retreat is. I mean,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
do the work, get to know as much of that person as you can, or those people prior to. And then once you're finished, do not just leave people by themselves. This is not just about building long-term business. This is really about long-term, growth of people who really are saying, I'm committed to growth. I'm coming to this thing. I want more in life. And that's the great joy, is to see them live it out in real life.
right. I find that when you're there's different types of retreats, like we said. So some of them can handle a lot of people, but what you're doing is really something that would be more transformational the smaller the group, because follow up is very important. And if someone can't handle, let's say, 10 people or 5, whatever it is, then they shouldn't be doing that type of retreat, because there is the follow up. You have to be able to really zone in on each client and focus to their needs, and make sure the follow up continues along with them. So I think what you said, it's not just a business. It really is not, especially when you're dealing with real transformation like you are. It's not just a business. It's not about creating a retreat just for money. It really is the impact that you will have on each individual and with their transformation. So absolutely. And what you do is incredible. Like I said at the beginning, I really admire all that you do. How can other people, whether it's but people that want to partner up with you, collaborate with you, or even clients that are searching for what you do, how can they connect with you?
They can go to the Legacy Forum website. It's just thelegacyforum.com. They can call me. I've always had my phone number out there for people to call. It's on the website. It's Seattle number 425-492-4300. And I take people's calls. I've always been open. We don't have a big client base because we work with people very intensely, and people understand that. They know that. When we work with clients, I'm available, or my wife's available. We have, other therapists who are available, but we work we work primarily as a team. I'm almost the quarterback of all of it, and I work a lot, just with the individuals and couples. But when we do larger retreats as well, we've done retreats, 20, 30, 40 people. That's not huge. Most of those are more training oriented. But even those I've kind of pulled back from a little bit. I like the deep interpersonal, real, talking about meaning, purpose, connecting, making life work. And so
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to offer to the listeners today?
I just wrote a blog about loneliness, and the tragedy of what loneliness is resulting in. And this is not just an open call to anyone to call. If they want to connect, if they want to email me, if they want to reach out, and spend half an hour, I'll talk to them. I really will. I'm deeply committed to connecting with people who really want to make a difference in their lives. But I'm not willing to connect with people who are not willing to give to other people. If I give something to somebody, I want that person to know that they better be committed to passing on whatever I give to them. That's always that's always part of the invitation. Don't call me if you're not willing to pass on. If I encourage you, you figure out a way to do that to someone else.
Paying it forward, that's the best way to do it. Absolutely. I've read your articles and they're fantastic. They're very meaningful, deep, and they get you thinking. So thank you for that.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Mark, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. I thank you for taking the time off your busy schedule to be with us here today. And you added so much value to all the listeners today on Retreat Boss. So I thank you so much for being here. I wish you much success and much transformation here on forth. And I hope to reconnect with you again.
I hope so too. And I really hope we can find a way with all the craziness that's still going on to be able to do something. I really do. The one thing I've learned about you since I've met you is just how deeply committed you are to people, but more than that, not more than that, how professional you are in everything that you do. It's of the highest professional standard. It just is. Every email, every contact. And I'm always grateful for that. In a world where people seem to be somewhat shaky, you're not. And
Thank
so
you. That means so much. Thank you so much, Mark. Well, that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you for being here today again. And I'm excited to broadcast this to all my listeners because they're going to get a whole lot more than just simple, advice. I think they're even going to take on some of what you said and use it on themselves. So it was very deep and valuable here today. So thank you so much, Mark.
Not at all, Catherine. And please, anything I can do for you, just let me know.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to do that. I really would.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Retreat Boss podcast. When it comes to achieving wellness and transformation, nothing is more effective and profound than a well-orchestrated retreat. Achieve huge revenue growth, one trip at a time. Want to learn more on expanding your business with retreats? Visit retreatboss.com when profitable retreats are made easy. Be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show at retreatboss.com/podcast. Until next time, take care.